We continue Sefer Ha-Aggadah, stories about Ha-Aggadah. This is on page 16 of the first volume. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Emshol lecha mashal lema Adam harishon ve'ishto domin. He says, let me give you a parable of Adam and his wife after they ate from the fruit. Le'echad she'ayta lo isha betoch beto. One who had, was married, his wife is home. הלך והביא את החבית והניח בתאנים במניין ואגוזים במניין וצד את העקרב ונתנו על פי החבית והקיפה בצמית פתיל והניחה בקרב זווית. So he had probably as a merchant he needs he buys nuts and figs במניין, which in the Mishnah תאנים במניין אגוזים במניין refers to a very expensive type of figs and nuts. That's what they call b'minyan. You sell them by the unit.
From Turkey.
Yeah, from Turkey, exactly. Nuts from Turkey and nuts from California and figs from Turkey. And they're so expensive that you sell them by the unit, not by weight. So maybe he feels that she's going to eat from them. And so he puts it in this barrel. Maybe that's his business. And on the top of the barrel, he put a scorpion. Like this is the lock. Okay. אמר לי אשתו, ביתי, כל מה שיש בבית הזה מסור בידך, חוץ מחבית זו, שלא תגעי בה כל עיקר שיש בה עקרב. He says, don't touch this barrel, there's a scorpion on it. כיוון שיצא בעלה לשוק, נכנסה אצלה זקנה אחת שואלת חומץ. The husband went to the market, and an old lady came over to borrow a cup of vinegar. אמרה לה, מה בעלך עושה עמך? What's the story with you and your husband? אמרה לה, כל טוב הוא עושה עמי, וכל מה שיש לו נתן לי, חוץ מחבית זו שאינו משליטני עליה. He says, he gave me everything, full control of the house, except for this one barrel. אמרה לה, ולא כל קוזמין שלא הרי בחבית זו. ולא אמר לך כך, אלא שהוא מבקש להיסחרת וליתנם לה. He says, all of his precious stuff is in this barrel. And he's hiding it from you because he's going to marry someone else and give it to her. So she opens the barrel. She touches. She's being bitten by the scorpion. She starts screaming. Her husband comes home and says, "Oh, you touched the barrel. I told you not to touch it," and he kicks her out of the house. So the analogy is obvious. Adam and his wife are the woman. The husband is God. God tells Adam and the woman, don't eat from the fruit. But once they eat from the fruit, they immediately, their status changes. They become knowledgeable. But not only they become knowledgeable and become, whatever the understanding is, that they have to dress themselves, they now are afraid of the consequences. So when God walks into the garden, they're hiding. God says, where are you? He says, it Kolcha shamati bagan va'era ke'arom anochi va'ehaveh. We feared your presence because we were naked and we had to hide. God says, you ate from the fruit, right? It's you are marked by the sin. This is the base of right. So there's the scorpion. But the interesting thing about the midrash, there are two interesting elements. One, it is clearly a loan, or I would say an appropriation of something that comes from Greek culture. The famous Greek myth, the myth of Pandora, the Pandora box. I mean, if you ask today's generation, Pandora say, oh, it's a great app. It allows you to stream radio from all over the world, right? But Pandora's box in Greek mythology is a story of a couple of the first. Some version is the first human couple that the gods created, and they gave them everything. And they gave them one box and said, you should not open the box. Not the man, not the woman. Do not open the box. The woman, whose name was Pandora, was very curious, and one day where her husband was not at home, she opened the box, and what she didn't know, that all the demons and all the evil forces were in the box, and now they're free and they roam all over the world. So obviously, this is the kind of myth that attributes all the suffering and all the evil in the world to women. And very fitting for the Greeks, which I mentioned before, were not very fond of women in general. So this is one thing that is important to have in mind. The rabbis borrowed freely from Greek literature, but they always gave it a twist. They changed it a little bit to fit it to adapt it to their needs. And this is part of the struggle that the rabbis always had between the attraction that people had towards Greek culture and literature and mythology, and keeping them in the synagogue and having them coming to hear the Torah reading and the tefillah. The same thing as we have today. When we say Shabbat morning, where's the youth? Oh, they went to watch a movie. It's like, why? Because it's more entertaining. So we have people think of how can you make the tefillah entertaining. So in the more orthodox circles, you have different types of minyanim, father and son minyan, kids activity, and so on. In other circles, people say, okay, so we will have our own movie, a special screening so they will come to synagogue. Different at the time of the rabbis, what they did was people were attracted to the theater to go and watch a comedy or a tragedy. They always just come to shul. We will turn the Torah reading into a tragedy or a comedy, meaning with the drasha. So this is what they do. The other thing is interesting, the elements of the way the rabbis tailor the story. They use a very common element that we all, or type of person that we all know. That person that comes and knocks on the door, especially when maybe not so much in America today. But when we lived in more tight neighborhoods, everybody knew everybody. You always had the neighbor coming for a cup of flour, for some sugar, and people exchanged constantly between. There's one person who's too much of a nudnik, the neg, that we had such case when we lived in Israel. The son, the neighbor sends her son. He comes and asks my wife. Mom asks if you have flour. She says no. He goes back. He comes back. She says, so maybe you have frozen dough. No. Because she wants to make borekas. He says, no, we don't have frozen dough. He comes again, third time. Mom said, maybe you have frozen borekas, like already made. No, we don't. He comes again. He said, maybe you have fresh borekas. He says, yes, in the bakery, down the block. Go buy. But you have that type of person, and it's okay that people exchange. But here, the rabbi is like, it's very subtle the way that the rabbi delivered the message. What is she coming to ask for? Not sugar, not flour, not oil. Vinegar. Shoelet hometz. Why vinegar? Vinegar, even though it's good for your health and we use it, people used to eat it, but especially in antiquity, it was a symbol of something that went bad. Because you only had vinegar if your wine was spoiled. You didn't make vinegar for the sake of vinegar. Today we do it. And that's why it also affects the halachot of vinegar. And nesech, vinegar is not nesech. Doesn't apply to it. But at the time, vinegar was something that was spoiled. So when this old lady comes in and she looks for vinegar, it means she's looking for trouble. And instead of saying, can I have a cup of vinegar? She says, what's the story? What's going on? Is everything okay? Everything is okay until she asks the question. So she's the meddlesome. She's driving a wedge between the woman and her husband. And she says, I have this one area where he doesn't tell me. So and she urges her, she encourages her to go and open the barrel. But with all that, the Midrash also puts the burden on the husband. Why do you have to do that? Why do you have to? If you trust your wife 100%, tell her, this is what I have in the barrel. I think we should not use it at home, right? This is only for commercial purposes. Don't open the barrel. Let's take it upon ourselves not to open it. By putting the scorpion there and telling her, don't open it because you're going to be punished or to suffer, he shows distrust towards her. So, on one level, it's what happened between Adam and the woman, according to the previous midrash that we discussed, that Adam did not trust the woman, and he said, "Don't touch and don't eat from the tree." So this is a display of distrust. But on a deeper level, it's almost as if the author of the Midrash is arguing with God. He says, what was the point, what was the point of telling Adam not to eat from the tree of knowledge? What would be the consequence, the terrible consequence of him eating from the fruit. Of course, we know that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has other midrashim where he argues with God. It was behind the scenes, like a theologian who argued with God. So it's just interesting. The answer is not given here. It leaves us with the question of why did God create this test and situation for Adam and the woman to fail when apparently there was no need for it. So it's interesting how the Midrash is willing to discuss such serious theological question.